Chapter 5, Livy. It's hard to sleep through the night in Australia, especially when Bob is eating potato chips right next to the bed. I wouldn't say this to his face, but Bob looks sort of creature-ish, as if he might scarf down his food like a dog or something. But from the sound of it, he's actually a very neat eater. The problem is that he crinkles the bag a lot. I'm under the covers thinking, I like to think, like this sometimes when nobody knows I'm awake, and what I'm thinking about is what to do about Bob. Bob thinks I can help him find his home. He waited for me in Gran's closet for 5 years. Where did he come from? The first thing Bob can remember is the chicken coop, so maybe we should start there. We've got to figure out how Bob can go outside without anyone seeing him. How does a green guy blend in to a place where nothing is green anymore? Everything around Gran's house is kind of a dry and brownish. I don't think the chicken soup is going to work. How could Bob ever pass for a chicken? The bag crinkling stopped suddenly. Did I say that out loud? I sit up. Bob is standing right next to the bed, looking at me with sad eyes. He's just tall enough to rest his green chin on the mattress. Don't worry, Bob says. This chicken suit has never failed me. I look at him. He's got the hood on and zipped everything up, but one shoulder of the chicken suit has slipped off again. He's squeezing the potato chip bag. I see that he taped a couple of loose feathers to his arm, and they're sticking out in 3 directions in a way that a real chicken's feathers would never, ever do. But I decide to be optimistic. Dad says being optimistic is when you decide everything will probably be okay, even if you don't exactly know how. Like when my soccer team was losing 7-0, and Dad had us put our hands together and chant, "We are champions," before the second half started. So I smile, and Bob smiles back. That's better. You look almost like the old Livy. And he pops the top of his orange soda. There's only one me, Bob. He slurps. Then he burps. I sigh. We lost that soccer game. I think the final score was 12-1. Only one more night until Mom leaves with Beth Ann. A bad feeling starts in my stomach. I tell it to go away, but that just makes it bigger. I look at Bob again. He spent more than 1,000 nights in this house without his mother. He's watching me, munching away. I want to promise that I'm going to get him home, wherever home is for Bob. But what if I can't? Suddenly, I'm looking at the back of him. Bob can move fast. The closet door closes behind him at the same moment the bedroom door swings open, and Mom sticks her head in. She smiles. Didn't think you'd be able to sleep through those magpies. Aren't they amazing? They sound like that cute robot from the first Star Wars movie. I listen. And there it is, a funny bird warble from outside. A lot of bird warbles, actually. They kind of do sound like R2-D2. Mom sits on the edge of the bed and puts one hand on my forehead, like she's feeling for a fever. I want her to leave that hand there forever. You doing okay, she asks. Sure, I tell her. We're probably both playing the same movies in our heads. Me getting picked up from Maya's house at 9 o'clock the last 2 times I tried to sleep over. Me getting picked up in the middle of Audrey Miller's slumber party. And me getting picked up from the school trip to Newport. That one was a long drive for Dad. Ever since Beth Ann was born, I can't sleep without knowing Mom or Dad is there. I'll only be gone for 6 nights, Mom says. And Gran is family. I know that. You should be fine, Mom says. That only makes me feel worse. I flip over so that my face is in the pillow, even though it means that Mom takes her hand away, because I know I should be fine. I know there's no reason to feel worried, but the stomachache shows up anyway. Mom squeezes my shoulders and says, "My brave girl," which is the last thing I feel like. I feel her weight leave the bed. "Breakfast in a few minutes, sweetie." As soon as she's gone, I hear the closet door open. I lift my head, and Bob is back where he was before. No food this time, just big eyes. "Bob," I say, "I'm not going to leave you alone again, I promise." A few hours later, we're standing at the kitchen door looking across Gran's yard to the chicken house. Mom has taken the baby into town for some shopping, and Gran has walked over to the neighbor's farm. In Massachusetts, it takes about 30 seconds to walk from our front door to the neighbor's house, but at Gran's, it's a long walk. It's a good thing no one's home because Bob insisted on going down Gran's back stairs on his butt 6 times. Turns out we did have a name for it. It's called butt bumping, and it hurts. Maybe I had more padding when I was 5. Looks like the coast is clear, I say, scanning the dusty yard. I told you it doesn't matter about the coast. The chicken suit works perfectly. I can't even look at him. We've spent the last 20 minutes taping every loose feather in the closet to Bob's back, and the chicken suit looks dumber than ever. Don't think that way, Livy, Bob says. We have to think positive thoughts. I blink. Are you reading my mind or something? Because this is the second time that's happened. He reaches up to poke my nose. I'm reading your face. Deep breath. Okay, I tell him. Let's go. We head out, just me and the small green mystery wearing a chicken suit into the sunlight. 3 steps across the yard, I glance down at Bob and burst out laughing. Now what? He asks. Why are you laughing? I'm laughing at the way you're walking like this. I do some fast little jumps, pumping my knees up into the air and landing on my toes. But that is the quick steps, Bob says, looking hurt. And what's this? I demonstrate again, still doing the crazy knees while also kind of lunging to the left and then to the right. He sniffs. That is the side to side. We start walking, but after a few steps, I have to stop again. I'm laughing so hard. What's this part for? I stick my head as far out on my neck as I can. Then I pull it back. Out, back, out, back. That is the head poke, he says impatiently. Am I doing something wrong? This is the chicken walk you taught me. Are you kidding? I have no idea how to walk like a chicken. No offense, but it's dorky. You did teach me. You watched the chickens to see what they did, and then you taught me how to walk like a chicken. The old Livy taught me. I look over at the chickens pecking in their chicken yard. Really? Weird. Let me see it again. Bob walks out in front of me, knees pumping, stepping left and right, and pecking at the ground. I glance at the chickens again and then back at Bob. You know what? That's actually a pretty good chicken walk, because I realize it is. I can see him smile, even though he is still in full-on chicken mode. Bob smiles with his whole head. It makes the sun feel warmer. Yes, he says to the dirt, it is a very good chicken walk that the old Livy taught me. There's only one me, I tell him. If you say so, he says. Hello there! There's a man walking toward us, down Grand's long driveway. It takes me a few seconds to notice the boy walking next to him. He's maybe 6 or 7. I look at Bob and realize how crazy it was that we ever thought this could work, because Bob is a green mystery creature covered in orange cloth, taped, and feathers, pecking, kind of desperately now, in the dirt. I hope he'll just keep his face down. Maybe I can pass him off as my strange little brother. The man and the boy smile all the way to where we're standing. Hi, I say, jumping and waving as if I can distract them from Bob by acting like a weirdo. The boy waves shyly and looks at his feet. The man booms, You must be the famous Olivia. His voice is super friendly, but his face is nervous. You got big. I almost didn't recognize you. He's twisting a white envelope in his hands. Yes, I'm Livy. I'm still jumping. I don't want him to take his eyes off of me. If he sees Bob, he might call the police or something. You're a hoppy little thing, aren't you? Yes, I say. I'm kind of hoppy. I start hopping on my right foot only. It must be working because neither of them is looking at Bob. He laughs and then catches himself and looks at the envelope in his hands. He seems surprised to see that it's bent and starts trying to flatten it out. Is your gran home? Is your gran at home? No, I say, switching to my left foot and hopping a little faster. She went over to the neighbors. The harder I hop, the harder Bob pecks in the dirt. The man laughs again. Well, we are the neighbors. Oh, ha! I switch back to the right foot. Is everything all right, he asks. You don't need anything, do you? Like the toilet, maybe? In Australia, they say toilet for bathroom. I know this because I have spent a lot of time back home trying to teach my mom not to say toilet for bathroom. No need for the toilet. I'm just getting some exercise. Hopping is great exercise. This is how we exercise in the United States. I don't let my eyes look at Bob, still pecking furiously. Exercise, huh? Must be something new. Well, we'll probably meet your gran in the road, I'm thinking. But if we don't, could you tell her that Danny and I came by to see her? This is when I notice that Danny is staring at Bob. Sure, I say, switching legs again. I'll tell her. And he looks at the envelope in his hand, like it's telling him something he doesn't want to hear. Could you give her this for me? Okay, still hopping. I reach out for the envelope, but then he pulls it back. Never mind, I'll give it to her later. Let's go, Danny. We have cows to milk. They start back down the driveway, and I see the man pat the small head of Danny, who looks back over his shoulder and quietly says 2 words. Nice chicken. I stop hopping and stand there, breathing hard. I look at Bob, his orange hood pulled tight to his round face, the red felt chicken comb flopping over to one side of his head, and old chicken feathers stuck up and down his arms with big X's of Scotch tape. He stands up straight and puts one hand on his hip. I told you the suit works. It works every time. But how? Forget the chicken walk, I say. Let's just get to the chicken house before someone else shows up. I grab Bob's hand and we run. His hand in my hand feels familiar and comfortable, like a girl and her not-so-zombie fake chicken should. The chickens are walking around in the chicken yard, which is fenced in with wire. They're walking back and forth in a group and pecking in the dirt. There are a lot of loose feathers around. Bob is shoving them into his pockets. Your chicken suit has pockets? I ask. Of course. I look a little more closely in the daylight. This chicken suit looks very familiar. Are those my old pajamas? Bob nods. Of course. I remember them now. Fuzzy orange pajamas with a hood. I guess that explains how I made Bob's chicken suit when I was only 5. All I needed was a bottle of glue and a lot of feathers and some red felt for the chicken comb. Let's go back to the first thing you remember, I tell Bob. Exactly where did I find you? He points to the little wooden chicken house that sits against one side of the fence. In there. Bob slips through the doorway without a problem, but for me it's a squeeze. Inside the chicken house there's barely room to stand up. There's not much light and not much to see. Just water pans and straw and chicken poop and more feathers. Anything look familiar, I ask Bob. He looks around. Oh, yes, he says. Very familiar. It is just the way I remember it. It's kind of smelly, I say. Bob nods. And this is where we met? For the first time? He thinks. This place is the first thing I remember. About anything. This place and you. It's almost like he hatched from one of the chicken eggs. I take a long look at Bob. No way he came from a chicken. Maybe there's a passageway or something. Bob's face lights up. Yes, a secret passage. To home. You feel around over there, I tell him. I'll check this side. We both drop to our knees and start patting the ground. As soon as we start moving the straw around, a lot of gross dust goes up my nose and into my eyes. After a while, I hear Bob say, I used the door, though. What? The door. He points to it. I used the door to come in, not a secret passageway. Well, why didn't you say so? I wipe my face, but my hands are so dirty that it just makes things worse. It's really gross in here, Bob. Why did you come here in the first place? Do you think you were running away from something? Bob thinks, tilting his head so that his chicken comb flops to the other direction. No, he says. I came here because it was warm. Were you cold? No, he says slowly. You were cold. I was cold. You were shivering. Why was I shivering? Because it was almost winter, and you were soaking wet.